Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 61 of Minecraft Pocket Edition. Today I thought I'd tend away from what I'm doing in the base, guys. So I'm over here by the gazebo / supporting thing, and I just thought I'd spend an episode, guys, explaining to you how to make all of the wool. Now, I know I've done this before, but I seem to have had a lot of comments saying that I missed a couple. And rightly so, I did miss a couple, but that was a reason for that in the video, and if you'd watched it, you'll know. But today, I'm going to make them all in front of you, and all the supplies are ready for you guys, so let's head straight down to the gazebo. Hopefully we can get some of this done before night time, so we don't have to cause any issues. So, let's start off with the crafting menu then. So, here is all the dyes that you can make with the different stuff, and as you'll notice, there is definitely a main 4. So clearly you've got the lapis, the green, the yellow, and the red. The red seems to be a very recurring one in all of them as well. And these seem to be the main 4 that you need. So the main 4 are definitely the red dye, the blue dye, the green dye, and the yellow dye, with the occasional bit of bone meal added in to make the colours a bit lighter. And to make these, they're pretty simple. So yellow dye starts off as a yellow flower, and I know most of you probably already know this because it tells you in the crafting menus. Lapis is exactly the same. You'll get that from mining it out of the ore. But bone meal, you know, you can get from bones. That's simple as well. But the other ones, the red and the green, slightly different. The green, you have to put cacti in a furnace. So I've gladly prepared some here for you guys. So you get the green cactus right here, and then if you put it in a furnace with some coal, you'll get this green dye. Now, if you do the same with a red mushroom, you will get red dye. Now, in the 0.8 update, I know this is going to change, so let's empty this chest out here, and let's take it back to our base, guys, so we can actually do something, because I haven't brought a bed with me, and I don't really want to waste all the wool that I've got to show you guys what to build. So let's head back over to the base, guys, and we will start putting together all the different types of wool. Now, in the world, I have started to put together small amounts of yellow, green, and I've started just lately with red. And basically what that was is just so I could have a backup resource of all the different wools. And considering that carpets are going to be added in 0.8, I thought it'd be important to let you guys know now, a bit closer to the update time, so you have something you can relate to and look back on, so that you can basically work out how to make each type of wool if you don't understand how the crafting menu actually works. So let's head. Actually, we'll do this outside, so we will sleep first of all, so let's get rid of the darkness that's outside, so we don't have any zombies or skeletons just walking down the stairs into the base. So, red dye, I'm going to make some in front of you guys here, so we'll make, to prove that it works, here is 8 red mushrooms, and I'm going to put some coal in to show you that that actually is red dye, so I'm not just lying to you that I found that somewhere, and the same with cactus, you put it in and the green dye appears. Now, to make the wools, they're all pretty simple to make, to be honest, guys, because I have a lot of the ingredients with me already. Each piece of wool can be gained from either killing a sheep, shearing a sheep with shears, like those, or basically getting 4 string together and making white wool. Now, you can dye sheep as well as wool. So when you get your white wool and you get your dyes, if you go near a sheep and you click on it, then that will change to that colour. So they're slowly cooking away. Basically what will happen is if you click the sheep gently so it doesn't kill or hit the sheep will change to the colour of the dye. Now, if you've got a sheep stuck somewhere, then you can basically change the colour of that sheep, continuously shearing it as long as it's growing back the wool by eating grass. Then you can pretty much have an infinite supply of wool without wasting too much string or anything else to that matter. But to make each type of wool via their corresponding dyes, they're pretty simple. So we're going to start with the basic dyes. So since we've got the lapis here with us, the yellow dye, the red dye, and the green dye, before I do any mixing combinations, we're just going to make each type from that. So the blue dye is lapis and white wool. It requires 1 lapis and white wool to make a blue wool. So there is a blue wool. I'm just going to get this out and show you it, guys. I'm going to place it up there. So that is a blue wool. It's completely different to every other wool, and because they're all unique, different colours, and that's kind of the thing. So the next one that down the list, which is highlighted for us, is green wool. Green wool is made just with a cactus dye and a white wool on its own. Now, The next one on the list, though, that we have to do, we've got red and yellow. So red is using just one cooked mushroom red dye and also a wool. But the thing with red wool is in 0.8, there's going to be a secondary way to make the red dye. Now, in the 0.8 update, I've already mentioned this, but we are gaining something that's unique to Pocket Edition. We're gaining beetroots. So from beetroots you can make beetroot soup, and you can cook and you can grow it the same way as wheat, potatoes and carrots. So we'll be also able to make it into red dye and soups. So that's going to be pretty cool. So I'll have an easier way to make it besides just with these. Let's collect our rightfully deserved dye, because we may need quite a lot of this later. And also I brought some flowers with me to show you how to make yellow dye. So we've now got pretty much 16 of each, except for the ones that we've already used for dye. So the next one on our list which we can make is yellow wool. And so they're all the main 4 wools. The 5th wool that you can say is a main wool would be white. So they're the 5 colours: white, yellow, red, green and blue. They're the ones that only require one single type of wool. Now these 4 which I have here at the moment can only be obtained via shearing or killing sheep. Now you have brown sheep, light grey sheep, dark grey sheep and black sheep. Now these can only be obtained from shearing sheep at this moment in time, because if you look in the menu, oh, I'm placing wool in the wrong places, so let's just break that and collect it. So let's go into the menu and we'll have a look down. As you notice, there is no brown wool, there is no grey wool, there is no dark grey wool, and there is no black wool. For now, you can't make these because in the normal games of Pocket Edition, they require ink sacs. And in Pocket Edition, we clearly don't have them. So currently, the only way to get these types of wools is through shearing and finding sheep in your world. If it means doing this for a little while to find one that's the right colour, then you may have to wait just a little bit longer before you can actually do anything. And yeah, so we're going to move on to making each type of dye now. So cyan dye. Cyan dye is a mixture of green and lapis blue dye. This is it's definitely the favourite block that I've got, because it kind of gives sort of a darkish, bluish, greenish stain colour. Kind of gives this nice bluish colour, and it's definitely my favourite wool. And an example of it is actually that on the floor. That is cyan dye. And so we were going to make some cyan wool. So first of all, we need to make the dye itself. It requires 1 cacti and 1 blue wool. So you get 2 from that because you're using 2 different types of dyed wool. So if we make 1 more cyan dye, these are going to be the ones that require 2. So we'll place these along this wall here. So the next one down the list after cyan dye actually is going to be light blue wool, which is actually, it requires 1 bone meal, I think 1, so there it is, light blue. It's 1 lapis lazuli and it's 1 bone meal. So bone meal's got from bones and the lapis is gained from the mining the ore. So you get 2 from that one again. And to make the block, all you do is you just do the combination of the wool and the dye. Sorry. So the next one on the list is lime green dye. And sadly, that's also the next one on our wool list because they like to correspond them in the right places. So that's quite an advantage. So if you go down the list, they're kind of in similar order to they are in the dyes list. So you'll be able to find them pretty easily. So lime dye follows a similar pattern to light blue dye. Light blue dye required 1 lapis lazuli and 1 bone meal. Lime dye, if you can work it out already, requires 1 cacti green dye instead of the lapis and 1 bone meal. So there you go, 1 bone meal, 1 lapis. We will gain 2 dyes from this because you're using 2 dyes originally. But we only want to make 1 block of each just to show you how to make each one. So far, these are the ones we've made that combine with 2. Now, the next one is magenta. And magenta can be made in multiple ways in the real game, but there's only one way we can do it in this game, and that's with 2 red, 1 lapis, and 1 bone meal. This is the start of the list of reds, so magenta, orange, pink, and purple all require to use red. Now, red is definitely an important dye for the wools if you like using them. Preferably, I prefer using the bluer and the green ones, and the darker ones like the black and the light grey. They're definitely my favourite ones to use, but it's up to you what you use. So we're going to make some magenta dye, which requires, as I've mentioned then, 2 mushroom red dye, 1 lapis lazuli dye, and 1 bone meal. So we get 4 from that because we used 4 different dyes. That's why you get the different amounts when you make each one. So if you're wondering why you get different ones, because there's different amounts of requirements to each one. So we're going to move on to orange now, which is 1 yellow and 1 red. These are similar basic colour combinations which you should already know in real life. So if you don't know how to do these, you should really start looking them up and learning your colours, because if you don't, there's something seriously wrong. So we're moving on to orange dye. We will once again get 2 because we used 2 dye. So scrolling down to orange wool, we are moving into the next area. So we'll put orange on that corner there, and you can see these are some of the ones that there's 5 of the ones that use 2, there's 4 that you can't craft, and there's 5 that you can. Excuse me. So, we'll move down the list to the next one now, guys, which is going to be pink. Pink dye, which is in fact 1 red, mushroom, and 1 bone meal, if I'm not mistaken. And I am not. So as you'll notice, if we make one of each of the dyes, you'll note one of each of the wools, sorry, you'll notice that the different fluctuations in each of the colours changes, because some of them are used less than others. An example, if you made one of each type, I think you use more red and blue than you do for anything else. So we used the red for this one here, guys. So this is pink dye, you get 2 again. So scrolling down to the pink wool, you click it and you have crafted pink wool. Another way to get pink wool is from pink sheep. They are naturally spawning sheep. Albeit they are very, very rare and they don't come around too often, they are findable in your world. The colours that you can find in the world are orange, not orange sheep, what the hell would we having orange sheep for? A white sheep, a black sheep, a grey sheep, dark grey sheep, and brown sheep, and also you can get pink sheep. It's very rare, but I've managed to spawn one in my test world, so I will show you that, guys. It's pretty soon, but that's obviously when I'm going to do some sort of tour of my test world, which is actually quite full of little designs and little bits, but you can wait for that to see. So the final one that we have to make is purple, which is 1 red and 1 blue. Now, we can make this quite easily like that, and we can also make the block, where is purple. There it is, like so. So there's purple dye, purple dye instead of the purple wool. So there are the 7 that you can craft blending the different colours together. The only one that uses more than 2 is actually the purple one up here, that one there. It uses actually 4. These are the ones which you can craft from just normal everyday objects. So like, that's lapis blue, that's cacti green, that's mushroom red, that's dandelion yellow, and that's 4-string or sheared sheep wool. And basically that's all of the wool. And if you notice now, I'm going to put the 4 main starting ingredients what I had are up here. So as you'll notice, each one's gone down by a different amount. Now I started with 16 of each, and you'll notice that in fact they've gone down by different significant amounts, which kind of shows you the importance of each type of wool. And as you'll notice, the less you use each type of wool through all of them, the easier it is to find. For example, mushrooms, unless you get very lucky and have 1 or 2 under a tree in your world, you can only get them through the nether reactor. Lapis, this can only be found at about level 25 and below, if I'm not mistaken. And that's pretty difficult to find, as I have past experience with that as well. Not finding any in my Let's Play World Season 1 until actually the last episode. The next one is bone meal, which will require you to kill off and fight enemy mobs and get bones from skeletons. Now this one, it's not too hard to do, but I find that for being tedious to do, this is one of the most tedious to do. The next one is cacti green. Now this one's one of the least used, and it's also the least likely you'll see out of the yellow and the green, because cactus can only be found on sand. Basically it only grows on sand. Now it doesn't matter wherever else you find it, the only place you can actually see cactus is in a sand biome or in the nether reactor. Now for dandelion yellow, on the other hand, this is the most common of all the wool colours that you will find besides white wool on a sheep. because dandelion yellow is pretty much everywhere in your world. Wherever you accidentally place bone meal, you will get flowers, and flowers can also spawn naturally in the world, so that's why they're the most common, and that's also why they are used the least. It's not because of like the colours and types of wool, it's just because basically, well, it just doesn't need it for that much. So if you put it around the area, it kind of just gives an aesthetic secondary feel to things. So let's just get these on like so. And I think we can sleep again. And we can break away all this wool, because it's kind of a waste. And now that I've got this wool though, guys, I can add it into the different piles that I've got down in my base. The most common one that I'm going to be using is going to be the cyan dye, the darker grey dyes, but they're pretty hard to get unless you get a sheep away that you can actually just put away and save. And yeah, so we're just going to break this wool away, and we're going to go and put it back in the storage room, guys. And that should be about it for today's episode, guys, because I just thought I'd take a little bit of a break from our tree farm and all that lot, because I can show you a little bit of progress on that, but all I've done really is dug it out a little bit more than it has, and there is a slab missing there. Better go and get that. So let's head through here, and I'll show you the progress I've made. So you can see the grass is starting to grow through the corridor, and it's not made that much progress yet, but this is the progress I've made in here. So it's fairly big. I did at one point dig straight through this way, because I tried to dig it through that way to find if I had space there, and it turns out, well, the one place that I didn't want the reeds to be were on the very last wall. And guess where the reeds were, guys? The last wall. Oh, we've got a skeleton friend. Oh, I can't even hit him. He's like invisible. It's like invincible, this skeleton. So let's break this through. Okay, check the other side. There's a skeleton on that side as well. Oh, great. Let's just clear out this, and we will try and repair the mushroom farm again, because I have an issues with skeletons spawning in the pipes, similar to the zombie spawning issues I had on the other side. So if we can break this guy open, luckily enough we can see only their feet, so they can't shoot back, and we can fight them without them hitting us, so that's good. And there's actually a mushroom growing in the pipe. That's pretty cool, actually. So I think it's about time for a harvest next episode of the mushrooms. As you can see, there's quite a few in each side, which is good. Especially because they're both red mushrooms, because I don't really need the brown at all. I thought that was missing for a second there. But let's go and put the wool back, guys. And I really do hope you've enjoyed this episode, guys. It was slightly different to usual, because I've kind of gone through and explained one of the ways of how awkward the crafting menu really is. To be honest, the crafting menu works for the most part. It's just when you get to things like all the different ones. Let's just place all these back. Let's see which ones we actually already had. I think I had most of them. And it turns out I've just filled the chest up. So let's get rid of the junk, which really shouldn't be in here. And move all the stuff up to one more. And there. And move the leads as well. And then we can just place 1, 2, 3, like so. So we filled up this chest pretty much with all the stuff. And I think I'm going to put dye in the valuable chest, because there's that much space there. There isn't really that much need to keep anything here. So let's put all this away. Put the important ones in sort of first or whatever. And anything else that I can put away, the arrows and the bones. Okay, so that's all about it I've got for today, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this episode as always. Comment, like, rate, and subscribe. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.